I heard my own voice before I even realized I was speaking, barely recognizing the sound coming from my throat. It was 2:32 in the morning, and I was standing in my doorway trying to comfort the man responsible for my father's death. The Mafia boss everyone warned me about. The dangerous criminal my father drove around the city for 3 years. The man my dad died protecting just hours ago. And somehow, seeing him break down in front of me, I knew I had to say something. Anything to stop him from drowning in the guilt written all over his face. Let me ask you something. Have you ever lost the most important person in your world and found yourself comforting someone else through their grief instead of your own? It's strange how tragedy can flip everything upside down, how you can end up being the strong one when you feel like you're dying inside. This story is about loss and unexpected connection, about finding love in the aftermath of devastation. But mostly, it's about discovering that sometimes the people we're supposed to fear end up being the ones who understand us most. Hey, how are you all doing? Wherever you're watching from right now, I hope you're okay. I hope you're safe and loved. Take a moment with me here, because this story gets heavy before it gets beautiful, and I need you to stay with me through all of it. My name is Natalie Bennett, and this is the story of how I went from being a woman who lost everything in one terrible night to someone who found a love so unexpected, so impossible, that it changed the entire trajectory of my life. This is the story of how the man my father died for became the man I couldn't imagine living without. If this resonates with you, if you've ever experienced loss or found light in dark places, leave me a comment. Tell me where you're from. Hit subscribe because you're going to want to know how this ends, I promise you that. Share this with someone who needs to hear that beautiful things can grow from broken ground. But let me take you back to the beginning, to when I still had my dad and thought I understood how the world worked. I was 23 years old when my father took the job with Dominic Volkov. I remember the day he told me like it was yesterday. We were having dinner in our small apartment, the same place we'd lived since Mom passed away when I was 12. Dad had been driving for a corporate executive, steady work, but barely enough to cover our bills and my college tuition. I got a new job offer, he said, not quite meeting my eyes. Better pay. A lot better. That's great, I said, genuinely happy for him. Who's the employer? The pause that followed told me everything I needed to know. Natalie, before you react, just hear me out. My stomach dropped. Dad, what did you do? His name is Dominic Volkov. He needs a driver. It's legitimate work, just driving, nothing else. But the pay is triple what I'm making now. I put my fork down. Volkov. As in the Volkov family. As in the mob. It's not like the movies, Dad said quietly. He's not what you think. The people who recommended me, they said he's fair. Honest in his own way. He has rules, principles. He's a criminal. My voice came out sharper than I intended. Dad, you're asking me to be okay with you working for a criminal. I'm asking you to trust that I know what I'm doing. He reached across the table, taking my hand. Sweetheart, with this job, I can pay off the apartment. I can make sure you finish school without drowning in debt. I can actually give you the life your mother wanted for you. I wanted to argue more. Wanted to tell him that money wasn't worth compromising his integrity, that we'd find another way. But I saw the determination in his eyes, the weariness that came from years of struggling to provide for us alone. Promise me you'll be careful, I finally said. Promise me this won't change who you are. I promise. He squeezed my hand. And Natalie, give me 6 months. If you still hate it after 6 months, I'll find something else. 6 months turned into 3 years. And the strangest thing happened. My father didn't become harder or colder working for Volkov. If anything, he seemed more at peace than I'd seen him since Mom died. He'd come home and tell me stories. Not about crimes or violence, but about conversations. About how Volkov asked about my college classes. About how his boss remembered small details like Dad mentioning his back was bothering him, and the next week there was an appointment card for a physical therapist with a note saying the cost was covered. He's not a monster, Nat, Dad told me one evening about 8 months into the job. He's complicated. He does things I don't always agree with, but he's trying to do right by people the system forgot about. That doesn't make it legal, I pointed out. No, it doesn't. Dad nodded. But it doesn't make it simple either. World isn't as black and white as we'd like it to be. I didn't want to hear it. Didn't want to accept that maybe the man I'd built up as a villain in my head might actually be more complicated than that. It was easier to keep Dominik Volkov in a box labeled dangerous, off-limits, morally bankrupt. But Dad kept chipping away at my certainty with little comments. Little observations. He paid for Tommy Reese's kid's surgery today, he'd mention. Tommy was one of Volkov's security guys. Didn't make a big deal about it. Just handled it. Or, he turned down a partnership deal today because it involved moving product through a school district. Said he wouldn't touch anything that put kids at risk. Or, my personal favorite, the one that really got under my skin, he asked about you today. Wanted to know if you got into that graduate program you applied for. Why does he care? I asked, more defensive than the question warranted. Because people matter to him, Dad said simply. More than he lets on. Still, I kept my distance. Refused to meet Volkov when Dad suggested it a few times. In my mind, acknowledging him as a real person, as someone capable of kindness, felt like betraying some moral high ground I was clinging to. Then, about 2 years into Dad's employment, we had the conversation that I would replay in my mind over and over after that terrible night. I'd had a bad day. Lost out on a teaching position I really wanted to a candidate with more experience. Came home frustrated and took it out on the nearest target. I just don't understand how you can work for him, I said, the words spilling out before I could stop them. How you can look at yourself in the mirror knowing you're helping a criminal operate. Dad was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm but firm. Sit down, Natalie. We're going to have this conversation once, and then I need you to let it go. He said. You want to know why I work for Dominik Volkov? It's not just the money, though that matters. It's because in 3 years he's never lied to me. Never asked me to compromise who I am. Never treated me like I'm disposable. Dad leaned forward. You know what he told me when he hired me? He said, your job is to drive and to tell me when I'm wrong. Those were his exact words. And have you? Told him when he's wrong. Twice. Once about a deal I thought would hurt more people than it helped. Once about how he handled a situation with one of his guys who screwed up. Dad smiled slightly. Both times he listened. Didn't have to agree. Didn't have to change course. But he listened and he thought about it. That doesn't make him a good person. No, it doesn't. But it makes him a better person than most people assume. Dad's expression grew serious. Natalie, I'm not asking you to like what I do, but I need you to understand something. If it ever came down to it, if Dominik Volkov needed me to put my life on the line for him, I wouldn't even think twice. My blood went cold. Dad, don't say that. I mean it. His voice was steady, certain. Not because he pays me, not because I'm afraid of him, but because he's a good man trying to do right in a world that doesn't always give good men good options. He's made mistakes, sure, but he's trying to be better, trying to build something that actually helps people. And if protecting him means protecting what he's building, then yeah, I'd take that risk. You can't mean that, I whispered. Ida. He reached over and hugged me tight. But hey, let's hope it never comes to that, right? Odds are I'll just keep driving him around, boring as ever, until I retire and you have to take care of your old man. I hugged him back, trying to ignore the fear creeping up my spine. You're not that old. Tell that to my back. We laughed, and the moment passed. But I never forgot that conversation. Never forgot the absolute certainty in my father's voice when he said he'd die for Dominik Volkov. I just never imagined I'd have to live in a world where that actually happened. The call came at 1:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. I was asleep, dreaming about something I can't even remember now. The phone rang and rang until I finally grabbed it, groggy and annoyed. Miss Bennett. A man's voice, professional but strained. This is James Wheeler. I work with your father. I sat up straight, suddenly wide awake. What happened? Is he okay? The pause told me everything before he said the words. I'm so sorry. There was an incident tonight. Your father was shot. He didn't make it. The rest of the conversation disappeared into static. I remember dropping the phone. Remember the sound that came out of me, something between a scream and a sob. Remember falling to my knees on my bedroom floor and feeling like the entire world had just collapsed. My father was dead. The man who raised me alone after mom passed. The man who worked 2 jobs to keep me in school. The man who taught me how to change a tire and balance a checkbook and stand up for myself. The man who literally just texted me 6 hours earlier asking if I wanted him to pick up groceries on his way home tomorrow.
Gone. Shot.
Protecting Dominic Volkov. I don't know how long I stayed on the floor crying. Time stopped meaning anything. At some point I called my best friend Rachel, barely able to get the words out. She offered to come over, but I told her no. I needed to be alone with this. Needed to feel the full weight of it without having to be strong for anyone else. I thought about that conversation we'd had. About Dad saying he wouldn't think twice about dying for Volkov. About me begging him not to say things like that. He'd meant every word. And now he was gone because of it. I was crying on the couch, wrapped in one of Dad's old sweaters that still smelled like his cologne, when I heard the knock at 2:15 a.m.
Soft.
Hesitant. Not the knock of someone delivering official news. I almost didn't answer. Almost pretended I wasn't home. But something made me get up, made me walk to the door, made me look through the peephole. A man stood in the hallway. Tall, dark hair, wearing an expensive suit with blood on the collar. Even through the distortion of the peephole, I could see he looked wrecked. Devastated. I knew who he was before I opened the door. Dominic Volkov looked nothing like I'd imagined. I'd built him up in my head as this cold, calculating criminal. Dangerous eyes. Cruel smile. The kind of man who'd order someone's death without blinking. The man standing in my doorway looked broken. "You're Dominic Volkov," I said. My voice sounded strange even to my own ears. Flat. Empty. "I'm so sorry." He started talking, words tumbling out like he couldn't control them. "Your father, he saved my life. He didn't have to. It wasn't part of his job. But he stepped in front of me anyway, and now he's gone, and I don't know how to make this right." I watched him break down in front of me. This powerful, feared man completely falling apart over my father's death. And something in his face, some raw, genuine grief, reminded me so much of my own pain that I couldn't stand it. That's when I said it. "Please don't blame yourself. He wanted this." Dominic stared at me like I'd just spoken a language he didn't understand. His eyes were red, whether from tears or exhaustion I couldn't tell. Probably both. "What did you say?" His voice cracked on the words. I stepped back from the doorway, opening it wider. "Come inside. Please. We shouldn't talk about this in the hallway." He hesitated, like he wasn't sure he deserved to enter my home. Like crossing that threshold would be taking something he hadn't earned. But after a moment, he walked in, moving carefully, like the apartment might shatter if he breathed wrong. I closed the door and led him to the small living room. The space suddenly felt smaller with him in it. He was probably 6'2", broad-shouldered, the kind of physical presence that commanded attention without trying. But right now he just looked lost. "Sit," I said, gesturing to the couch. "I'm going to make tea. Do you drink tea?" "You don't have to do that." He remained standing. "I shouldn't even be here. I just needed to tell you in person. Needed you to know that your father was a hero. That he was the best man I've ever known. That I would give anything to trade places with him right now. Mr. Volkov, sit down before you fall down." My voice came out firmer than I felt. "And I'm making tea, because if I stop moving I'm going to fall apart, so you're drinking tea whether you want it or not." He sat. I went to the kitchen, my hands shaking as I filled the kettle. Through the doorway I could see him on the couch, head in his hands, shoulders trembling. This was the man my father died for. This devastated, guilt-ridden man who looked like he'd aged 10 years in one night. The kettle whistled. I made 2 cups of chamomile, Dad's favorite, and brought them back to the living room. Set one in front of Dominic and kept one for myself, wrapping both hands around it for warmth I desperately needed. "My father talked about you," I said quietly. "A lot, actually. More than I wanted to hear, if I'm being honest." Dominic looked up at me, confusion mixing with the grief on his face. "He mentioned you too." All the time. He was so proud of you. I know. The words hurt coming out. He was always proud of me, even when I didn't deserve it. He said you didn't approve of him working for me. I didn't. I took a sip of tea, buying myself time. I thought you were going to get him killed or corrupt him or turn him into someone I didn't recognize. Turns out I was right about the first part. Dominic flinched like I'd slapped him. I'm sorry, I said quickly. That was cruel. I'm not okay right now, and I'm saying things without thinking. Don't apologize. His voice was rough. You have every right to hate me. Your father is dead because of me. Because someone wanted me gone, and he got in the way. That's the truth, and nothing I say can change it. He told me something once. I set my cup down, needing both hands free for what I was about to say. About 2 years ago, we got into an argument about you about his job. I told him I didn't understand how he could work for a criminal, how he could look at himself in the mirror. Dominic went very still. He said if it ever came down to it, if you needed him to put his life on the line, he wouldn't think twice. I felt tears starting again, but pushed through. I told him not to say things like that. I begged him to promise me he'd never do something that stupid. But he just smiled and said he hoped it would never come to that. Natalie. Dominic's voice broke on my name. I never asked him to protect me like that. Never expected it. That wasn't his job. He was supposed to drive, that's all. Just drive. I know. I wiped my eyes with the sleeve of Dad's sweater. But that's not who he was. You knew him for 3 years. You know he couldn't stand by and watch someone get hurt if he could do something about it. He was too good for this world. Dominic's hands were shaking around his teacup. Too good for me, definitely. He didn't think so. I took a breath, steadying myself. He told me you were a good man, that you operated in a morally gray world, but you tried to do right by people. He said you had rules, that you protected people the system abandoned. He said you were complicated, but not evil. He was wrong about that. Was he? I leaned forward. Because right now, looking at you, seeing how destroyed you are over losing him, I don't see an evil man. I see someone who cared about my father. Someone who's drowning in guilt over something that wasn't entirely your fault. It was entirely my fault. Dominic set his cup down hard enough that tea sloshed over the edge. I knew the Kozlovs were escalating. Knew they wanted me dead. I should have had more security. Should have taken different precautions. Should have kept Thomas away from anything dangerous. He wouldn't have accepted that. The certainty in my voice surprised even me. If you tried to bench him, keep him safe, he would have fought you on it. That's not who he was. Dominic looked at me for a long moment, really looked at me like he was seeing me as a person for the first time instead of just the daughter of the man he'd lost. You look like him, he said softly. Same eyes. Same way of cutting through nonsense and getting straight to the truth. He raised me alone from the time I was 12. I pulled the sleeves of the sweater over my hands. Taught me not to accept comfortable lies when hard truths were available. Your mother passed away? There was genuine curiosity in his voice now, not just grief.
Cancer.
It was fast, which was both a mercy and a curse. We didn't have time to prepare, but she also didn't suffer long. I looked down at my tea. Dad never really got over it. He loved her so completely that losing her broke something in him. But he kept going for me. Made sure I had everything I needed even when we could barely afford rent. That's why he took the job with me. Understanding dawned in Dominic's expression. The money. He needed to provide for you. At first, yes. But it became more than that. I met his eyes. He respected you. Genuinely respected you. And my dad didn't respect many people. He was picky about who earned that from him. I respected him too. Dominic's voice was barely above a whisper. More than he probably knew. More than I told him. We sat in silence for a moment, two people bound by grief and loss, trying to make sense of a senseless tragedy. Why did you come here tonight? I asked finally. You could have sent someone to notify me.
Could have stayed away.
But you showed up at my door at 2 a.m. covered in my father's blood. Dominic looked down at his shirt like he'd forgotten about the stains. I don't know. I just knew I couldn't let someone else tell you. Couldn't hide behind protocol or propriety. Your father died for me. The least I could do was face you. That took courage. It took basic human decency. He stood up abruptly, like sitting still was becoming unbearable, which apparently is more than I've shown in most areas of my life. I stood too, suddenly aware of how close we were in the small living room. Mr. Volkov.
Dominic. Please.
After everything, I think we're past formality. Dominic. I corrected. My father's funeral. I need to plan it. I don't even know where to start. He never talked about what he wanted because talking about death felt like tempting fate. I'll handle it. The words came out quick, decisive. Everything. The arrangements, the costs, whatever you need. It's the absolute least I can do. You don't have to do that. Yes, I do. His jaw tightened. Your father died in my service. Taking care of his final arrangements isn't charity. It's obligation. It's honor. I should have argued. Should have insisted on maintaining some independence, some boundary between his world and mine. But I was exhausted and broken, and the thought of trying to plan a funeral while drowning in grief felt impossible. Okay, I whispered. Thank you. Dominic pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. I'm sending you a contact. Her name is Marie. She'll help coordinate everything. Whatever you want, whatever feels right for honoring Thomas, just tell her. Money is not a concern. I don't want something ostentatious. The words came out sharper than intended. He wasn't flashy. He was simple and genuine and kind. Then that's what we'll do. Dominic pocketed his phone. Simple and genuine and kind. A service that reflects who he actually was. He would have liked that. He would have hated all the fuss. A ghost of a smile crossed Dominic's face. He'd tell us we were being ridiculous and to just throw him in the ground and get on with living. That sounded exactly like something he'd say. I felt my own lips curve slightly despite everything. He was practical to a fault. Drove me crazy sometimes. Dominic's smile faded. I'd try to give him bonuses and he'd argue about whether he'd earned them. Offered him better health insurance, and he spent 20 minutes trying to convince me the standard plan was fine. He didn't like feeling like he owed anyone anything. I wrapped my arms around myself. Said debt made you vulnerable.
Smart man.
The smartest I knew. Another silence fell, but this one felt different. Less awkward. More like two people sharing space in their grief rather than two strangers forced together by tragedy. Dominic moved toward the door. I should go. Let you rest. Let you process. Wait. I don't know what made me say it. Don't know what instinct kicked in. Will you tell me what happened? Not the sanitized version. Not the polite lie. I need to know the truth about how he died. Dominic turned back, pain etched across his features. Are you sure? Once I tell you, you can't unhear it. I'm sure. He took a breath, steadying himself. We were leaving a meeting. Nothing dangerous, just a conversation with someone who owed me a favor. Thomas opened the car door for me. He always did that even though I told him it wasn't necessary. I was getting in when I saw his expression change. He'd spotted something. Someone. I listened, barely breathing. He said get down in this voice I'd never heard from him before. Completely calm. Absolutely certain. And I listened. I dropped. He moved to cover me with his body. Dominic's voice broke. The first shot shattered the window. The second hit Thomas in the chest. Center mass. The kind of shot that doesn't leave room for miracles. Tears were streaming down my face now, but I didn't interrupt. I caught him before he hit the ground. My security returned fire, got us behind cover. But I knew. The moment I saw the blood, I knew he wasn't going to make it. Dominic's own tears were falling freely now. He looked up at me, and he smiled. Actually smiled. He said he knew it might come to this. That he told you about it. That you were worth protecting me for. My breath caught. Then he asked me to tell you, he was sorry. That he loved you. That he'd do it all again. Dominic's voice dropped to barely a whisper. Those were his last words. He died at 11:52 p.m., 5 minutes after taking a bullet meant for me. I was sobbing now, the kind of crying that comes from your bones. Dominic crossed the room in 2 strides and pulled me into a hug. It should have felt wrong, should have felt inappropriate. But in that moment, with both of us shattered by the loss of the same man, it felt like the only thing that made sense. We stood there in my small living room, two people destroyed by grief, holding each other up because we were both too broken to stand alone. "I'm so sorry," Dominic whispered into my hair.
I'm so goddamn sorry, Natalie.
"I know," I managed. "I know you are." When we finally pulled apart, both of us looked wrecked. Eyes swollen, faces blotchy, the thin veneer of composure completely gone. "I really should go now." Dominic wiped his face with his sleeve. "Let you get some rest. Will you come to the funeral?" The question slipped out before I could stop it. "If you want me there, I'll be there." His eyes met mine. "But I understand if you'd prefer I stay away. If having me there would make it harder." "He'd want you there." The truth of it settled in my chest. "And honestly, I think I want you there too. You knew him in ways I didn't. Saw sides of him I never got to see. It feels right that you should be there to say goodbye." "Then I'll be there." Dominic pulled out a card, handed it to me. "My personal number. If you need anything, and I mean anything, at any hour, you call. No question is too small, no request too much." I took the card, running my thumb over the embossed lettering. "Thank you for coming here tonight, for telling me the truth, for caring about him the way you did." He made it easy to care. Dominic moved to the door, paused with his hand on the knob. "Natalie, I'm going to find out who ordered that hit. And when I do, they're going to pay for what they took from both of us." Something in his voice sent a chill down my spine. This was the man people feared, the dangerous criminal my father had worked for. But instead of being scared, I just felt tired. "Will that bring him back?" I asked softly.
No.
Dominic's expression hardened. "But it will make sure no one else dies the way he did. It will send a message that the people under my protection are not acceptable targets. Be careful." The words came out before I could think better of them. "He died to keep you alive. Don't waste that by getting yourself killed seeking revenge." Dominic's face softened. "I'll be careful. I promise." He left then, disappearing into the early morning darkness. I closed the door behind him and leaned against it, feeling the full weight of the night crash down on me. My father was gone. The man who raised me, who loved me, who sacrificed everything to give me a good life, was never coming home. And somehow, impossibly, the person who understood that loss most completely was the very man my father died protecting. I looked down at the business card in my hand. Dominic Volkov. A phone number. An invitation to reach out if I needed help. I should have thrown it away. Should have kept my distance from that world, from the danger that had just cost me everything. But something stopped me. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was grief. Maybe it was the memory of how completely broken Dominic had looked standing in my doorway. Or maybe it was the echo of my father's voice saying that Dominic was worth protecting, worth believing in, worth the ultimate sacrifice. I tucked the card into my pocket and went to my bedroom. Lay down on top of the covers, still wearing Dad's sweater. Stared at the ceiling as dawn started creeping through the windows. Tomorrow I'd have to call people, make arrangements, figure out how to exist in a world without my father in it. But tonight, I let myself feel everything. The grief, the anger, the confusion, the strange, unexpected connection I'd felt with the man responsible for all this pain. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Marie here. Mr. Volkov gave me your contact. I am so deeply sorry for your loss. I'll call tomorrow afternoon to discuss arrangements when you're ready.
No rules.
Take all the time you need. Professional.
Kind.
Respectful." I typed back a simple thank you and set my phone aside. Then I cried myself to sleep in my father's sweater, breathing in the fading scent of his cologne, trying to memorize it before it disappeared completely. The funeral was scheduled for Saturday. 4 days away. 4 days to figure out how to say goodbye to the man who'd been my entire world. 4 days until I'd see Dominic Volkov again. I didn't know it then, but that funeral would change everything. would set in motion a chain of events that would transform my understanding of love, loyalty, and the complicated nature of good men making hard choices. But that night, all I knew was loss. All I felt was pain. And somewhere across the city, I knew Dominic was feeling exactly the same way. The funeral was beautiful in the way funerals can be when they honor someone truly loved. Simple like Dad would have wanted. No elaborate flower arrangements or grand gestures. Just a modest service at the church he'd attended sporadically, attended by people whose lives he'd touched in small, genuine ways. I stood at the front in a black dress I'd bought 2 days earlier, shaking hands with people I barely knew. Neighbors. His old co-workers from before he worked for Dominic. A few guys from his poker group who showed up red-eyed and uncomfortable in ill-fitting suits. And then there was Dominic's crowd. They arrived together, a group of about 15 men and 3 women, all dressed immaculately, all moving with the kind of coordinated awareness that screamed security training. They hung back, respectful, not wanting to intrude on the more conventional mourners. Dominic was the last to approach me. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent, but his eyes were the same as they'd been at my apartment. Devastated.
Guilt-ridden. Lost.
Natalie. He took my hand in both of his. The service was perfect. Thomas would have loved it. He would have said we were making too much fuss. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. But thank you for arranging everything. Marie was incredible. She's good at what she does. He hesitated. I wanted to ask if you'd join us afterward. A few of us are gathering at my place. Just talking, remembering Thomas. You don't have to, but I thought you might want to hear stories about the side of him you didn't get to see. I should have said no. Should have gone home to my empty apartment and grieved alone like a sensible person. But the thought of sitting in that space without Dad, surrounded by all his things but none of his presence, felt unbearable. Okay, I said. I'll come. Surprise flickered across Dominic's face. Really? Really? Just for a little while. An hour later, I found myself in the back of a town car being driven to a part of the city I'd never been to. The buildings got taller, more expensive. The streets cleaner. We pulled up to a high-rise that probably had its own zip code. The driver opened my door. Miss Bennett, Mr. Volkov's apartment is the penthouse. Top floor. Just give your name to security. I walked into a lobby that looked like it belonged in a luxury hotel. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, doormen in uniforms that were somehow both professional and vaguely intimidating. I gave my name to the security desk and was immediately ushered to a private elevator. The ride up felt endless. My reflection stared back at me from the polished walls. I looked tired, older than my 26 years. My hair was pulled back in a simple bun, my makeup minimal, my dress appropriate but unremarkable. What was I doing here? Coming to the home of a man I'd spent 3 years resenting, whose lifestyle had gotten my father killed, whose world was so far removed from mine we might as well be different species. The elevator doors opened directly into the apartment. I stepped out and froze. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city. The space was massive, decorated with understated elegance that managed to feel both expensive and somehow personal. Comfortable furniture arranged in conversation areas. Bookshelves actually filled with books that looked read. Art on the walls that didn't scream, "I'm rich," but whispered, "I have taste." And everywhere people. Dominic's people. Talking quietly, drinking, sharing stories. The atmosphere was subdued, but not oppressively sad. More like a celebration of a life than a mourning of a death. You came. Dominic appeared at my elbow, holding 2 glasses of wine. I wasn't sure you would. Neither was I. I accepted the wine gratefully. Your home is beautiful. Thomas helped me pick out most of the furniture. Dominic's smile was bittersweet. I wanted everything to look impressive. He told me impressive was meaningless if it wasn't comfortable. Said a home should feel like a place you want to be, not a museum you're afraid to touch. That sounds like him.
Come on.
Let me introduce you to some people. The next hour passed in a blur of names and faces. James, the man who'd called to tell me about Dad's death, turned out to be head of security. He had kind eyes and a firm handshake. Your father saved my life once, he told me. Different situation, but same instinct. Guy pulled a knife in a parking lot, trying to rob Mr. Volkov. Thomas didn't hesitate. Threw himself between them with nothing but his bare hands. Crazy brave. Or just crazy, I said. Both, probably. James smiled. But the good kind of crazy. The kind that makes you a hero. Marie was there too, the woman who'd coordinated everything. She was probably in her 50s, elegant in the way some women just naturally are, with warm eyes and a gentle manner. Your father talked about you constantly, she told me. Showed me pictures of your college graduation at least 5 times. He was so proud of you, sweetheart. I was proud of him too. The words came out thick. Even when I didn't understand his choices. He knew that. He told me once that you challenging him, pushing back on his decision to work here, that made him respect you more. Said you had integrity and weren't afraid to stand by it. The stories kept coming. Dad teaching one of the younger guys how to change oil properly. Dad recommending a good divorce lawyer to someone going through a rough separation. Dad remembering everyone's birthday and always having a card ready. He made us feel human, a woman named Teresa said. She was maybe 30, worked in Dominic's financial operations. In this world, it's easy to forget you're a person with a life outside the job. Thomas never forgot. He'd ask about my kids' soccer games and actually remember what I told him. That mattered more than he probably knew. I found myself relaxing slightly, the wine helping, the stories warming something cold inside me. These people had genuinely loved my father, had seen in him what I'd always seen. Kindness, decency, humanity. Eventually the crowd thinned. People said their goodbyes, offered final condolences, slipped away until it was just me, Dominic, and Marie in the massive living room. I should probably go too, I said, setting down my empty wine glass. Let you rest. Stay. Dominic said it quickly, almost desperately.
Please.
Just a little longer. I'm not ready to be alone yet. Marie looked between us, something calculating in her expression. I'll leave you too. Natalie, it was lovely meeting you despite the circumstances. Dominic, I'll see you Monday. Then she was gone, and it was just the two of us in this enormous apartment overlooking the city where my father had died. Can I show you something? Dominic asked. Something Thomas gave me? Okay. He led me to a study off the main living area. More bookshelves, a massive desk, windows overlooking a different angle of the city. He went to a drawer, pulled out a small box. Inside was a watch. Nothing fancy, just a simple silver watch with a leather band. My father gave this to me when I turned 18, Dominic said quietly. Told me it was the most valuable thing he owned, because it had belonged to his father. I wore it every day until about 6 months ago when the band broke. I was going to get it fixed, but kept putting it off. He handed me the box. The watch had been repaired, the leather band replaced with a new one that matched the original style perfectly. Thomas noticed I'd stopped wearing it. Asked me about it. I told him what happened and that I'd been meaning to get it fixed. 2 weeks later, he handed me this box. Said he'd found a guy who specialized in watch repair, that it was good as new, that some things were too important to leave broken. My throat tightened. He wouldn't let me pay him back. Dominic's voice cracked. Said it was a gift. That gifts between friends didn't require repayment. That was the first time he called us friends. Not employer and employee. Friends. He didn't use that word lightly, I whispered. I know. Dominic carefully took the watch out of the box, fastened it around his wrist. I'm never taking this off again. Every time I look at it, I'll remember that someone believed I was worth being friends with. That someone saw past everything I've done and found something redeemable. I set the box down on his desk. Dominic, can I ask you something? Anything. Why do you do this? The life you lead. You're clearly intelligent, capable, wealthy. You could do anything. Why choose something that puts you and everyone around you in danger? He was quiet for a long moment, staring out the window at the city lights. Honest answer? Honest answer. Because the system is broken. He turned to face me. You know how many people fall through the cracks? How many neighborhoods the police have given up on. How many families can't get justice because they don't have money or connections or the right last name. So, you provide your own version of justice? I provide options.
His jaw tightened.
I'm not saying I'm a hero. I'm not delusional. But the people who come to me, they've exhausted every legal avenue. They've been failed by the system that's supposed to protect them. So yeah, I offer alternatives. Some legal, some not. All effective. At what cost? At the cost of my soul, probably. He smiled without humor. But I made peace with that a long time ago. My father built this empire. My grandfather before him. I inherited something I never asked for, but I'm trying to reshape it into something better. Less violence. More actual help. It's slow work. Is that what my father saw in you? I asked. The potential for something better? Maybe. Or maybe he just saw someone trying and decided that was enough. Dominic moved closer, not quite invading my space, but close enough that I could see the exhaustion in his eyes. Natalie, I know this world isn't what you want. I know you probably hate everything I represent. But I need you to understand something. What? Your father's death will not be meaningless. His voice hardened with determination. The people responsible are going to answer for it. And I'm going to use what happened to make changes. Real changes. No more civilian casualties. No more drivers put in danger. No more good people dying for my mistakes. That's not going to bring him back.
No.
But it might save someone else's father. Someone else's daughter. He reached out, hesitated, then gently took my hand. I can't undo what happened.
Can't make this right.
But I can honor Thomas by being the man he believed I could be. His hand was warm, his grip gentle but firm. I should have pulled away, should have maintained some boundary. But I was so tired of being strong, so exhausted from holding everything together. I don't know how to do this, I admitted. How to exist without him. He was all I had left. You're not alone. Dominic squeezed my hand. I know we barely know each other. I know I'm probably the last person you want support from. But I meant what I said. Anything you need, anytime, you call me. Why? The question came out sharper than intended. Why do you care what happens to me? Because Thomas cared. He said it simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. And because in the few interactions we've had, I've seen the same strength in you that I saw in him. The same integrity. You're his legacy, Natalie. The best part of who he was. Tears started falling before I could stop them. I'm not strong. I'm barely holding it together. Strength isn't about not breaking. Dominic pulled me into a hug, and this time I didn't resist. It's about breaking and still finding a way forward. We stood like that for several minutes, two broken people finding unexpected comfort in shared grief. When I finally pulled back, wiping my eyes, something had shifted. Some invisible wall had started to crack. I should really go now, I said. It's late, and you must be exhausted. Let me have my driver take you home. I can get a cab. Natalie. His tone left no room for argument. It's 11 p.m. You're emotionally drained. You've had wine. Let me do this one small thing. Please. I was too tired to fight. Okay. Thank you. He walked me to the elevator, pressed the button, stood with his hands in his pockets, looking suddenly uncertain. The funeral expenses, I said as the elevator arrived. Send me the bill. I'll figure out a payment plan. Absolutely not. Dominic, I can't let you pay for everything. It's too much. It's not nearly enough. His expression was firm. This isn't negotiable. Your father died in my service. Taking care of his final arrangements is the bare minimum of what I owe. The elevator doors started to close. He caught them, held them open. Natalie, one more thing. Yes, your father, he set up a life insurance policy through his employment with me. It's substantial. Enough that you won't have to worry about money for a while. Marie will help you with the paperwork.
I stared at him.
I didn't know he had life insurance. He insisted on it. Said if anything happened to him, he wanted to make sure you were taken care of. Dominic's voice softened. He loved you more than anything in this world. Everything he did was for you. The elevator doors tried to close again. This time Dominic let them. I rode down alone, my mind spinning. Life insurance. Funeral expenses covered. A personal phone number for a man who ran half the city's underground operations. Invitations to gatherings in penthouses I could never afford. My life had tilted completely sideways in the span of a week. The driver was waiting, professional and silent. He drove me home through empty streets, pulled up in front of my building, opened my door. "Miss Bennett, Mr. Volkov wanted me to give you this." He handed me a phone. New, expensive, still in the box. He said your number's already programmed in, along with several contacts who can help if you need anything. Security, legal assistance, medical services. Everything's prepaid. I took the phone, too stunned to argue. "Thank you." He also wanted me to tell you that someone will be stationed outside your building overnight. Standard security protocol. You won't see them, but they're there if you need them. That's not necessary. With respect, Miss Bennett, Mr. Volkov disagrees. The people who killed your father are still out there. Until they're dealt with, anyone connected to Mr. Volkov is considered at risk. Fear flickered through me for the first time. You think they'd come after me? I think we're not taking chances. His expression was kind but serious. Go inside, lock your doors, use the phone if anything seems wrong. We're watching. I went upstairs in a daze. Unlocked my apartment, locked it again behind me. Set the new phone on the kitchen counter next to my old one. Stared at both of them like they were alien objects. My father was dead. A mafia boss was paying for his funeral and giving me expensive phones and posting guards outside my building. I'd spent the evening drinking wine in a penthouse with people who probably had more blood on their hands than I wanted to know about. And the strangest part was that I'd felt safe there. Had felt, for a few hours, like I belonged somewhere again. I changed into pajamas, Dad's sweater going on over them. Sat on the couch with both phones in front of me. The new one lit up with a text. "Made it home okay?"
Dominic.
I picked up the phone, typed back.
Yes.
"Thank you for everything today. The service was perfect. Thomas deserved perfect." A pause, then another message. "Get some rest. I'm here if you need anything." I should have put the phone down. Should have established boundaries. Instead I typed, "Are you okay? You looked exhausted." Honestly?
No.
But I'll survive. Always do. That's not the same as being okay. True. Same could be said for you, though. He had a point. We're quite a pair, aren't we? Both falling apart, but pretending we're fine. At least we're honest with each other about it. I smiled despite everything. "Good night, Dominic." "Thank you again." "Good night, Natalie. Sleep well." I set the phone down, stared at the ceiling. Outside my building, somewhere in the shadows, someone was standing guard. Protecting me because Dominic had ordered it. Because my father had died protecting him. Because somehow, impossibly, I'd become part of a world I'd spent 3 years trying to keep at arm's length. And the terrifying part was that I didn't hate it as much as I should. I fell asleep on the couch, both phones within reach, wrapped in my father's sweater, thinking about a man with sad eyes and a watch that used to be broken. Tomorrow I'd have to figure out what came next. How to move forward. How to build a life in the wreckage of everything I'd lost. But tonight, I let myself feel something other than grief. I felt connected. Protected.
Seen.
And for the first time since that terrible phone call at 1:47 a.m., I felt like maybe, eventually, I'd be okay. The days after the funeral blurred together in a haze of paperwork and forced normalcy. I tried to go back to work at the bookstore where I'd been employed part-time while finishing my teaching certification. My manager took one look at me and sent me home with paid leave and a care package of tea and chocolate. "Take as long as you need," she said, hugging me tight. "The job will be here when you're ready." But being home alone felt worse. Every corner of the apartment held memories. Dad's coffee mug still in the dish drainer. His jacket on the hook by the door. The crossword puzzle book on the side table, half finished, his pencil marking the spot where he'd left off. I couldn't bring myself to move anything. It felt like erasing him, like admitting he was really gone. The new phone Dominic gave me buzzed constantly. Marie checking in about the insurance paperwork. James asking if the security detail was too intrusive. And Dominic himself, texting every morning and evening. How are you today? Did you eat something? Remember to drink water. Grief makes you forget the basics. Thinking about Thomas today. Remembered the time he convinced me to try that terrible diner he loved. Food was awful, but the company was perfect. I shouldn't have responded. Shouldn't have engaged. But his messages felt like lifelines when I was drowning, so I answered every single one.
I'm okay.
Not great, but okay. Had toast. Does that count? You sound like my father. He was always reminding me to take care of myself. That diner had the worst coffee I've ever tasted. But Dad loved it because the owner remembered his name and asked about me every time he went in. Our exchanges started short but grew longer. More personal. Less about grief and more about everything else. He told me about growing up with the weight of family expectations. I told him about teaching and why I loved working with kids. He sent me pictures of books he thought I'd like. I sent him terrible jokes that made him respond with laughing emojis. 2 weeks after the funeral, he called instead of texting. Hey, his voice was warm through the phone. I hope I'm not bothering you. You're not. I was curled up on the couch, Dad's sweater on as always, staring at nothing. What's up? I wanted to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. He paused. How are you really doing? Not the polite version you tell everyone. The truth. I considered lying. Considered saying I was fine managing getting through it. But something about his voice made me want to be honest. I'm not okay, I admitted. I wake up every morning and forget for about 3 seconds that he's gone. Then I remember, and it's like losing him all over again. The apartment feels wrong without him.
Food tastes like nothing.
I can't focus on anything for more than a few minutes. And I feel guilty every time I laugh or feel even slightly okay, because how can I be okay when he's dead? Silence on the other end. Then, quietly, I know exactly what you mean. You do. My father died 5 years ago. Heart attack, sudden, no warning. And I felt guilty for months every time I had a good day. Like enjoying life was betraying his memory. Dominic's voice was rough with old pain. Eventually, someone told me that the people who love us don't want us to suffer forever.
They want us to live.
To find joy again. To honor them by being happy. Did you believe them? Not at first.
But eventually, yeah.
I realized that my father would have hated seeing me torture myself with guilt. He'd have told me to get my act together and build something worth the sacrifice he made building the foundation I inherited. I pulled the sweater tighter around myself. Dad would definitely tell me to stop moping and get on with my life. He had no patience for self-pity. Sounds like Thomas. I could hear the smile in Dominic's voice. So, let me ask you something else. When was the last time you left your apartment for something other than absolute necessity?
I had to think about it.
The funeral. That was 2 weeks ago, Natalie. I know. Okay, here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow, I'm picking you up at noon. We're going somewhere, nothing dangerous or complicated, just a change of scenery. You're going to get dressed, leave the apartment, and remember what the outside world looks like. Dominic, I don't think I'm ready for that. You're not. Nobody ever is. But sometimes you have to do things before you're ready or you'll never do them at all. His tone softened.
Please, let me help.
Your father would want someone looking out for you, and right now I'm volunteering for the job. I should have said no. Should have maintained independence, kept boundaries, not let myself get drawn deeper into his world. But the thought of another day alone in this apartment made me want to scream. Okay, I whispered. Noon tomorrow. Good. Wear something comfortable. And Natalie. Yeah. Thank you for trusting me. He hung up before I could respond. The next day, I spent an embarrassing amount of time trying to figure out what to wear. Everything in my closet felt wrong. Too formal, too casual, too much like someone trying too hard. I finally settled on jeans and a simple sweater, tied my hair back, applied minimal makeup. At exactly noon, my phone buzzed. Downstairs whenever you're ready.
No rules.
I grabbed my jacket and headed down. The town car was waiting, but this time Dominic was standing beside it instead of sitting inside. He wore dark jeans and a gray sweater under a leather jacket. I'd never seen him in anything but suits. He looked younger like this. More approachable. "You came," he said, smiling. "You didn't give me much choice." "I absolutely gave you a choice. You just made the right one." He opened the car door.
Come on.
"Adventure awaits." I slid into the back seat, he followed, and we pulled away from my building. I watched the familiar streets pass by, then unfamiliar ones. Then we were heading out of the city entirely. "Where are we going?"
I asked.
"You'll see." 20 minutes later, we pulled up to a small lake I didn't know existed. Trees surrounding it, a walking path, benches scattered at intervals. It was beautiful and peaceful and absolutely empty on a weekday afternoon. "I come here when the city gets too loud," Dominic said as we got out of the car. "When I need to think without the weight of everything pressing down."
Thought you might need that too.
We walked in silence for a while, following the path around the lake. The air was crisp, autumn just starting to hint at winter. Leaves crunched under our feet. Birds called from the trees. It was the first time in weeks that my brain felt quiet. "My father used to take me fishing at a lake like this," I said eventually. "When I was little, before Mom got sick. We'd wake up before dawn, drive out to this spot he knew, spend the whole day just sitting there waiting for fish to bite." "Did you catch anything?"
Rarely.
But that wasn't really the point. It was about the time together. About him teaching me patience and showing me that not everything has to be loud or exciting to be valuable. I smiled at the memory. I hated it when I was 8. Would have rather been anywhere else. But looking back, those are some of my favorite memories. He sounds like he was a great father.
The best.
My voice cracked slightly. He gave up everything after Mom died. His friends, his hobbies, his social life. Everything became about raising me, making sure I was okay. And I don't think I ever properly thanked him for that. Dominic stopped walking, turned to face me. He knew. Trust me, he knew. Every time he talked about you, which was constantly, his entire face lit up. You were his purpose, Natalie. His reason for everything. He didn't need thanks because seeing you thrive was enough. Tears started falling. I was so tired of crying, but apparently my body hadn't gotten that message. "I'm sorry, I managed. I'm ruining your nice gesture with tears." "You're not ruining anything." He pulled out a handkerchief, actually a real cloth handkerchief, and handed it to me. "Cry as much as you need. That's literally why we're here. So you can fall apart somewhere other than that apartment." I took the handkerchief, dabbed at my eyes. Who carries actual handkerchiefs anymore? Old-fashioned, I know. My father insisted. Said a gentleman always has one in case someone needs it. Your father sounds like he was a good man, too. He was complicated. Dominic started walking again, and I fell into step beside him. Built an empire on morally questionable foundations, but treated everyone in his life with respect and kindness. Donated millions to charity under fake names because he said recognition defeated the purpose of giving. Killed people who threatened what he'd built, but cried at every single one of my school plays. That is complicated. Yeah. Took me a long time to make peace with the contradiction. To understand that people aren't just good or bad, they're both, constantly, depending on the situation and the choice in front of them. We found a bench overlooking the water and sat down. The sun was starting to lower, casting everything in gold light. "Can I ask you something personal?" I said. "Anything. Do you have nightmares?" About that night? Dominic was quiet for so long, I thought he wasn't going to answer. Then, every single night, I see Thomas falling. See the blood. Hear him telling me he knew it might come to this. Wake up covered in sweat, convinced I'm still holding him while he dies. Me too. Different nightmare, but same result. I see him leaving for work that morning. Asked if he wanted me to make him a sandwich for later, and he said no, he'd grab something. Such a stupid, mundane conversation. And in the nightmare, I beg him not to go. I tell him what's going to happen. But he just smiles and leaves anyway. "Grief is exhausting," Dominic said softly.
Yeah.
It really is. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the water. A family of ducks swam past. Somewhere in the trees, a woodpecker worked on a trunk. Normal, peaceful sounds that felt almost foreign after weeks of suffocating sadness. "Thank you for this," I said eventually. "For forcing me out of my apartment. For giving me permission to fall apart somewhere beautiful." "You don't need my permission." He turned to look at me. "But you're welcome anyway." Our eyes met and held. Something passed between us in that moment. Something I couldn't quite name. Recognition, maybe. Understanding. The acknowledgement that we were both broken people finding unexpected comfort in each other's brokenness. "We should probably head back," Dominic said, but he didn't move. Neither did I, probably. Another moment stretched between us. Then my phone rang, shattering the quiet. I pulled it out, saw an unknown number. "Hello, Miss Bennett? This is Detective Morrison. I'm calling about your father's case." My stomach dropped. "Have you found who did it? We'd like you to come down to the station. We have some questions and some information to share. Would tomorrow morning work?" "I can come now." "Tomorrow is fine. Say, 10 a.m. I'll be there." I hung up, looked at Dominic. "The police want to talk to me. About Dad's case." His expression darkened. "Do you want me to come with you? Would that be appropriate? Given your, relationship with law enforcement." A humorless smile. "Fair point. But I can have a lawyer meet you there. Someone good. Someone who'll make sure they treat you right." "Dominic, I don't need a lawyer. I didn't do anything wrong." "It's not about that. It's about having someone in your corner who knows how these things work." He pulled out his phone. "Please, let me do this one thing." I wanted to argue, wanted to prove I could handle it myself. But the truth was I had no idea what to expect, and the thought of facing police questions alone made my anxiety spike. "Okay," I agreed. "Thank you." He made a quick call, spoke quietly, hung up. "Rachel Green. She's the best. She'll meet you there at 9:45. Just tell her everything honestly. Let her guide the conversation if things get tricky. You really have lawyers on speed dial. Part of the job description." He stood, offered me his hand. "Come on. Let's get you home. You have a big day tomorrow." The drive back was quieter. I stared out the window, my mind racing. What did the police want? Had they found the shooter? Did they have suspects? And why did I feel guilty, even though I'd done nothing wrong? "Hey," Dominic's voice pulled me back. "Whatever they tell you tomorrow, whatever they ask, remember that your father died a hero. Nothing they say can change that. What if they try to make it seem like it was his fault somehow? Like he made bad choices working for you? Then Rachel will shut that down immediately." His jaw tightened. "And if they try to blame Thomas for anything, they'll have me to answer to." We pulled up to my building. Dominic walked me to the door despite my protests. "Text me after the meeting tomorrow," he said. "Let me know how it goes. And if you need anything at all, you call me immediately." "You're very protective for someone I barely know." "I'm protective of the people I care about. And whether you like it or not, you're one of those people now." The words hit me harder than they should have. "Why?" "Why what? Why do you care about me? We met 3 weeks ago under the worst possible circumstances. You don't owe me anything beyond what you've already done. So why?" Dominic looked at me for a long moment. "Honest answer? Always. Because when I look at you, I see someone strong enough to comfort the person responsible for her father's death instead of hating him. I see someone who loved Thomas as completely as I respected him. I see someone real in a world full of people playing roles." He reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. "And because you make me want to be the man your father believed I could be." My breath caught. We were standing too close. His hand was still near my face. The air between us felt charged with something dangerous and inevitable. "I should go inside," I whispered, but I didn't move. "You should," he agreed, also not moving. Then my phone buzzed, breaking the moment. We both stepped back, the spell broken. "Good night, Natalie." "Good night, Dominic." I went inside, closed the door, leaned against it with my heart racing. What was happening? This man whose lifestyle had gotten my father killed, who represented everything I'd been raised to avoid, who lived in a world of violence and moral compromise. Why did being near him make me feel safe instead of scared? I looked at my phone. A text from Rachel Green, the lawyer. Mr. Volkov briefed me on your situation. Don't worry about tomorrow. I'll handle everything.
Get some rest.
Another text, this one from Dominic. Sleep well. You're stronger than you know. I changed into pajamas, put on Dad's sweater, lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow I'd talk to the police. Find out what they knew about who killed my father. Maybe get some answers. Maybe get some closure. But tonight, all I could think about was the way Dominic had looked at me outside my building. The way his voice had softened when he said I was someone he cared about. The way my heart had raced when he touched my hair. This was dangerous. Reckless. Exactly the kind of complication I didn't need while grieving and trying to rebuild my life. But it was also real.
Raw.
The first thing in weeks that made me feel something other than crushing sadness. I fell asleep with both phones on my nightstand, wondering what tomorrow would bring. Wondering if I was making a terrible mistake letting Dominic Volkov into my life. Wondering why the thought of pushing him away hurt more than it should. The police station felt cold and institutional. Rachel Green met me outside, exactly as promised. She was maybe 40, sharp eyes, expensive suit, the kind of woman who commanded respect just by existing. Whatever they ask, I'll tell you if you should answer, she said. Don't volunteer information. Don't apologize for things that aren't your fault. Just stick to facts. Detective Morrison was older, tired-looking, with kind eyes that didn't match the tension in his jaw. He led us to an interview room and laid out photos on the table. Crime scene photos. My father, covered in blood. I looked away, bile rising in my throat. Miss Bennett, we need to ask you about your father's relationship with Dominic Volkov. He was his driver. You know that already. Did he ever mention feeling threatened? Worried about his safety? Rachel's hand touched my arm. A warning.
No.
He loved his job. Said Mr. Volkov treated him with respect. Morrison leaned forward. We have reason to believe your father knew about the hit before it happened. That he deliberately positioned himself to take the bullet. My blood went cold. What are you saying? We found communications on his phone. Messages from an unknown number warning him that an attempt would be made on Volkov's life. Your father didn't report it. Didn't increase security. He just showed up that night and died. That doesn't make sense. Unless he wanted to die protecting Volkov. Unless his loyalty went deeper than employment. Morrison's voice was gentle but firm. We think your father was involved in Volkov's operations. Not just a driver. An active participant. That's absurd. But even as I said it, doubt crept in. All those conversations about Dominic being a good man. The certainty that he'd die for him without thinking twice. What if Dad wasn't just loyal? What if he was complicit? Rachel stood. Unless you have evidence of criminal activity, we're done here. One more thing. Morrison pulled out another photo. Do you recognize this man? I looked. A man in his 40s, dark hair, cold eyes.
No.
Should I? Alexei Kozlov. He ordered the hit on Volkov. And Miss Bennett, he's made threats specifically mentioning you. Said anyone connected to Volkov is fair game. Said Thomas dying was just the beginning. The room spun. Rachel was talking, saying something about protective custody, but I couldn't hear her over the ringing in my ears. My father might have been more involved than I knew. And the people who killed him wanted me dead too. I stumbled out of the station, Rachel following, talking about security and legal options. But all I could think about was calling Dominic. Demanding answers. Finding out what my father had really been doing all those nights he came home late. I called him from the car. He answered on the first ring. What did they tell you? They said Dad knew about the hit beforehand. That he deliberately took the bullet. That he was involved in your operations. My voice broke. Tell me it's not true. Tell me my father wasn't a criminal. Silence. Long, damning silence. Dominic, tell me. He wasn't a criminal. His voice was careful. But he knew more than just driving, yes. He helped with security assessments. with reading people in meetings, with logistics. Nothing violent, nothing illegal, but more than I told you. You lied to me. I protected you from details you didn't need. There's a difference. No, there isn't. Tears were streaming down my face. My father died, keeping your secrets. And now someone wants me dead because of it. Because of choices he made that I knew nothing about. Natalie, listen to me. I will not let anything happen to you. I have security on you constantly. Kozlov won't get near you. You can't promise that. I wiped my eyes furiously. You couldn't save my father. How can you save me? Because I won't make the same mistake twice. His voice hardened with determination. I'm doubling your security. Moving you somewhere safe until this is handled.
No.
I'm not running. I'm not hiding. And I'm not trusting you blindly anymore. I hung up, turned off the phone, told Rachel to take me home. That night, alone in my apartment, I went through Dad's things. His phone, his laptop, looking for evidence of what he'd really been doing. And I found it. Emails about shipments and meetings. Notes about people and locations. Nothing explicitly criminal, but enough to show he'd been deeper in Dominic's world than I ever imagined. My father, my hero, had lied to me for 3 years. And I'd been falling for the man who'd pulled him into that life. I cried until I had nothing left. Then I made a decision. I was done being protected. Done being kept in the dark. If I was in danger, I deserved to know everything. Every truth, every lie, every ugly reality of what my father had really been involved in. Tomorrow I'd confront Dominic. Demand real answers. Tonight, I mourned the father I thought I knew. Dominic showed up at my door at 6 a.m. I hadn't slept, was still wearing yesterday's clothes, looked like hell, and didn't care. You hung up on me. He looked worse than I felt. You turned off your phone. I've been losing my mind for 12 hours.
Good.
Now you know how I feel. I didn't invite him in. My father lied to me.
You lied to me.
Everyone lied. I was trying to protect you. By keeping me ignorant? By letting me believe my father was just a driver when he was actually involved in your operations. He wasn't involved the way you're thinking. Dominic ran his hand through his hair. Yes, he helped with security assessments. Yes, he sat in on meetings sometimes. But he never broke the law. Never hurt anyone. He was exactly who you thought he was, just with more knowledge than you realized. That's a distinction without a difference. It's the only distinction that matters. He stepped closer. Thomas was good. That never changed. The fact that he understood my world doesn't make him complicit in the bad parts of it. The police said Kozlov threatened me specifically. Said I'm a target now because of my connection to you. I know. That's why I'm moving you. I said no. And I'm overruling you. His voice turned to steel. Kozlov doesn't make empty threats. If he said you're a target, you're a target. So you're moving to a secure location until I end this. You don't get to make that decision for me. Actually, I do. Because your father died protecting me, which means keeping you alive is my responsibility now. I'm not your responsibility. But even as I said it, I knew it was pointless. He'd already made up his mind. The next week was a nightmare. Dominic moved me to a safe house outside the city. Beautiful place, all security and isolation. James and 2 other guards rotated shifts. I had everything I needed except freedom. I tried to work on my teaching certification online, but couldn't focus. Tried to read, but the words swam on the page. Mostly I just stared out windows and wondered how my life had become this. Dominic visited every other day, bringing food and books and updates on the search for Kozlov. Each visit felt strained. We'd dance around the elephant in the room, the lies and half-truths that had poisoned whatever was growing between us. I miss him. I admitted one evening. We were sitting on the porch, watching the sunset. I keep wanting to call him and tell him about all this chaos. Then I remember he's gone, and it's like losing him again. I miss him too. Dominic's voice was quiet. Every day I get in the car and expect to see him. Expect him to have coffee ready and some story about something you did that made him proud. Do you regret it? Hiring him. Every single day. If he'd never worked for me, he'd still be alive. But he wouldn't have been happy. The admission hurt. He told me once that working for you gave him purpose, made him feel like he was making a difference. I hated hearing it then, but I think it was true. It doesn't make it right,
No.
but it makes it real. 2 weeks into my isolation, Rachel called with news. They'd located Kozlov. He was holed up in a warehouse district, heavily armed, refusing to negotiate. Dominic's planning something, she said carefully. Something that doesn't involve police. You should know that. What kind of something? The kind where people don't come back. The kind your father would have warned you about. I hung up and immediately called Dominic. Whatever you're planning, don't. I'm ending this, Natalie. For Thomas. For you. For everyone Kozlov has hurt. By becoming exactly what people think you are? By proving them right about you being a killer. If that's what it takes to keep you safe, then yes. His voice was cold in a way I'd never heard. I've tried negotiation. I've tried working through channels. Kozlov wants war. I'm giving him war. My father wouldn't want this. Your father died because I didn't act fast enough. I won't make that mistake with you. He hung up. I tried calling back, but he didn't answer. That night was the longest of my life. I paced the safe house, checking my phone constantly, imagining worst-case scenarios. James tried to calm me down, but I could see the worry in his eyes too. At 3 a.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. Miss Bennett, this is Detective Morrison. I need to inform you that there was an incident tonight involving Dominic Volkov and Alexei Kozlov. My heart stopped. Is he alive? He's alive. In custody. There was a confrontation that resulted in Kozlov's death. Self-defense by all accounts, but it's complicated.
He's asking for you.
The holding cell where they kept Dominic was nothing like TV shows. Just a small room with a table, 2 chairs, and fluorescent lighting that made everyone look half dead. He had a cut above his eyebrow, bruises forming on his jaw, blood on his shirt that I prayed wasn't his. You came. He looked genuinely surprised. Of course I came. I sat down across from him, the table between us feeling like an ocean. What happened? Kozlov was planning to move on you tonight. Had men en route to the safe house. I got there first. His voice was flat, emotionless. He pulled a gun. I defended myself. He's dead. Are you okay? A harsh laugh. Am I okay? Natalie, I just killed a man. I'm probably going to prison. Your life is still in danger from Kozlov's people. Nothing about this is okay. But are you hurt? Physically, I mean. He stared at me like I was speaking another language. Why do you care? After everything, after the lies and the danger and all of this, why do you care if I'm hurt? Because despite my better judgment, despite every logical reason not to, I care about you. The words came out before I could stop them. I've been trying not to, trying to keep distance and perspective and all the smart things a person should do. But I can't stop caring. Dominic's expression cracked. You should hate me. Thomas died because of me. You're in danger because of me. Everything bad in your life right now traces back to me. And everything good too. I reached across the table, took his hand. You've been there every single day since Dad died. You've protected me, supported me, let me fall apart without judgment. You've been honest even when the truth made you look bad. That matters. I killed someone tonight. To protect me. That matters too.
Natalie.
His voice broke. I'm probably going to prison. Even if they accept self-defense, I have too many enemies in law enforcement. They'll find something to charge me with. And you can't wait for me. You can't put your life on hold for someone like me. What if I want to? Then you're as crazy as your father was, believing I'm worth saving. I squeezed his hand. Maybe I am. Or maybe I see what he saw. A man trying to be better than his circumstances. A man capable of love and loyalty and sacrifice. I don't deserve you believing in me. Lucky for you. It's not about deserving. It's about choosing. I stood up, came around the table, sat next to him instead of across from him. I'm choosing to believe in you, Dominic. Just like my father did. Just like you believed in him. He pulled me into a hug, holding on like I was the only solid thing in a world falling apart. I held him back just as tightly, two broken people finding unexpected strength in each other. They're going to arraign me tomorrow, he whispered. Set bail, probably. Rachel's confident she can get me out, but it'll be a fight. Then we fight. Together. He pulled back, looked at me with something like wonder. How are you real? How are you not running from all of this? Because running doesn't change anything. Because I'm tired of being afraid. And because somewhere along the way, you stopped being the man who got my father killed and became the man I can't imagine losing. Natalie. Don't. I put my finger on his lips. Don't tell me all the reasons this is a bad idea. Don't list the logical arguments against caring about you. I know them all already. I just don't care anymore. He kissed me then. Soft, gentle, tasting like desperation and hope and something that felt dangerously close to love. I kissed him back, letting myself feel everything I'd been fighting for weeks. When we pulled apart, we were both crying. I will get through this, he said firmly. Whatever they charge me with, however long it takes, I will come back to you. If you'll wait. I'll wait. The certainty in my voice surprised me. However long it takes. A guard knocked on the door. Time was up. I stood, reluctant to leave. I'll be at the arraignment tomorrow. Front row. So you can see me. Thank you. For believing in me. For being brave enough to care despite everything. Thank you for being worth it. I left the police station as the sun was rising. Rachel met me outside with coffee and a grim expression. This is going to be ugly, she said. The prosecution wants to make an example of him. They have leverage, witnesses, enough circumstantial evidence to make this complicated. Can you win? I can try. But Natalie, you need to prepare yourself for the possibility that he goes away for a while. Maybe a long while. Then I'll wait a long while. She studied me. You're in love with him. Yeah, I think I am. Does he know? Not yet, but he will. When the time is right, when all this is over, I'll tell him. Rachel smiled sadly. Your father would either be very proud or very concerned. Possibly both. Definitely both. I sipped the coffee, letting the warmth ground me. But he'd understand. He knew what it was like to believe in Dominic despite the odds. The trial took 3 months. 3 months of testimony and evidence, and watching Dominic sit in that defendant's chair looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. 3 months of Rachel fighting brilliantly while the prosecution painted him as a monster. I was there every single day. Front row, like I promised. Watching him. Letting him see that I wasn't going anywhere. The prosecution's case was built on Dominic's history. Past associations, old allegations, the framework of his business dealings. But they struggled with the actual incident. Security footage showed Kozlov drawing first. Ballistics supported self-defense. Witnesses confirmed Kozlov had made threats. Still, the prosecution pushed. Made it about more than one night. Made it about years of operating outside the law, of choosing violence, of being exactly what society feared. Rachel's closing argument was devastating. Yes, Dominic Volkov operates in a world most of us don't understand. Yes, he's made choices we might not make. But on the night in question, he did what any of us would do when faced with a man pointing a gun at us. He survived. And he saved an innocent woman in the process. She gestured to me. Natalie Bennett lost her father to violence. Mr. Volkov could have let Kozlov finish what he started. Instead, he put himself between her and danger. That's not the action of a monster. That's the action of a man trying to protect someone he cares about. The jury deliberated for 2 days. 2 days where I barely slept, barely ate, just waited and prayed and hoped. When they came back, the courtroom was packed. Press, supporters, enemies, everyone wanting to see how this ended. On the charge of second-degree murder, we find the defendant not guilty. The relief was overwhelming. Dominic's shoulder sagged. Rachel squeezed his arm. Behind me, James and the rest of Dominic's people let out held breaths. But the judge wasn't done. However, Mr. Volkov, this court is concerned about the pattern of behavior that brought you here. I'm placing you on probation for 2 years. During that time, you will submit to regular check-ins, maintain lawful employment, and any violation will result in immediate incarceration. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. Then you're free to go. The courtroom erupted. Press shouting questions. People hugging. Dominic stood slowly, like he couldn't quite believe it was over. Rachel hugged him. Don't screw this up. 2 years of perfect behavior, understand? I understand. Then he turned and looked at me. Across the courtroom, through the chaos, our eyes met. I pushed through the crowd. Didn't care about propriety or cameras or what anyone thought. Just got to him and threw my arms around him. You're free, I whispered. I'm free. He held me tight. And I owe it to you. If you hadn't been there every day, if you hadn't believed in me, I don't think I could have made it through. You would have. You're stronger than you know. I'm strong because you gave me reason to be. We pulled apart. The cameras were flashing. Tomorrow we'd be in every paper, the Mafia boss and the driver's daughter. Let them talk. Let them speculate. I didn't care anymore. Outside the courthouse, the press mobbed us. Questions shouted from every direction. Mr. Volkov, what are your plans now? Miss Bennett, how do you feel about the verdict? Are you two together? Dominic raised his hand, quieting them. I'm grateful for the jury's decision. I'm committed to honoring my probation and building a better future. That's all I have to say. He took my hand, and we walked through the crowd to the waiting car. Once inside, safe from the cameras, he finally let himself break. I thought I was going to lose everything. His voice shook. My freedom, my business, you. I thought this was it. But it's not. You're free. You have a second chance. Because of you. He turned to face me fully. Natalie, these last 3 months, seeing you there every day, it kept me sane.
Kept me fighting.
You could have walked away at any point. Should have, probably. But you stayed. I told you I'd wait. I meant it. I love you. The words came out raw, honest. I know it's complicated and messy, and probably too soon to say. But I love you. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me, even though the circumstances were the worst. And if you'll let me, I want to spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of the faith you've shown in me. Tears streamed down my face. I love you too. I've been trying to be logical and careful and smart. But I can't help it. You make me feel safe and seen and like maybe something good can come from all this tragedy. He kissed me then, and it felt like coming home. Like finding the missing piece I didn't know I needed. Your father would probably have my head for this, he murmured against my lips.
No.
I think he'd be happy. He believed in you. Believed you were capable of being the man I'm seeing right now. Then I won't let either of you down. We went back to his apartment, the one I'd been to only once before for the memorial.
It felt different now.
Less intimidating. More like a place where a future could start. That night, curled up on his couch with city lights sparkling beyond the windows, I told him everything. About my fears and hopes. About my dreams of teaching and making a difference. About wanting a life that honored my father's memory while building something new. He listened to every word, then shared his own plans. Using his probation as an opportunity to go legitimate. Building businesses that helped rather than hurt. Creating the legacy his father had hoped for but never fully achieved. I want you part of it, he said. Not because you have to be, but because I want to build this future with you. I want that too. We fell asleep together, two people who'd found each other in the wreckage of loss and somehow built something worth fighting for. 1 year later, I stood in front of my first classroom as a fully certified teacher. 23 third graders stared back at me with a mix of excitement and terror that I completely understood. Good morning, everyone. My name is Miss Bennett. We're going to have an amazing year together. As I launched into my first lesson, I caught sight of Dominic through the classroom window. He was supposed to be at a business meeting but had shown up anyway, wanting to see my first day. When our eyes met, he smiled and gave me a thumbs up. I smiled back, then focused on my students. This was what Dad had wanted for me. A life full of purpose and passion. the ability to make a difference for kids who needed someone to believe in them. After school, Dominic was waiting by my car with flowers. "How is it?" he asked, pulling me into a hug. "Terrifying and perfect." I buried my face in his chest. I forgot half of what I planned to say and winged most of the afternoon, but the kids were incredible. "Thomas would be so proud of you." "I know." I felt him there today, cheering me on. We'd started visiting Dad's grave together every Sunday, bringing flowers, telling him about our week, updating him on how we were honoring his memory. It helped, keeping him part of our lives even though he was gone. Dominic's transformation over the past year had been remarkable. He'd divested from every questionable business, invested heavily in legitimate enterprises, started a foundation providing legal assistance to people who couldn't afford it. The same skills that made him successful in the underworld now built something genuinely good. His probation officer was cautiously optimistic. No violations, no issues, just a man genuinely trying to be better. "I have something for you," Dominic said as we drove to our favorite restaurant. Early celebration for surviving day one. He handed me a small box. Inside was a key. "What's this?" "Key to my apartment. Our apartment, if you want it to be." He glanced at me nervously. "I know we've been taking things slow, being careful. But Natalie, I don't want slow anymore. I want you in my space, in my life, permanently. Move in with me. Build this future we keep talking about." I turned the key over in my hand. A year ago, this would have been unthinkable. Now it felt inevitable.
Yes.
Absolutely yes. His smile could have lit up the whole city. That night, we started moving my things. It wasn't much. I'd been living simply since Dad died. But each box we carried felt significant. A new chapter.
A new start.
As we unpacked in what was now our bedroom, Dominic pulled out a folder. "There's something else. Something I've been working on." He handed it to me. "It's not done yet, but I wanted you to see." Inside were architectural plans, a community center, educational programs, after-school care, job training, all in the neighborhood where I grew up, where Dad had raised me. "It's called the Thomas Bennett Center," Dominic explained. "A place where kids and families can get support, education, opportunities. Everything your father believed in, everything he worked for, made permanent." I couldn't speak through the tears. "Is it okay?" Dominic asked. "I should have asked first, but I wanted to surprise you." "It's perfect." I hugged him hard. It's exactly what he would have wanted. Exactly how he'd want to be remembered. Construction starts next month. Should be open in a year. And Natalie, I want you involved. Help design the programs, choose the staff, make sure it actually serves the community the way Thomas would have wanted. I'd be honored. We stood there holding each other, looking at the plans for a future neither of us could have imagined a year ago. Built on tragedy, but growing into something beautiful. Later that night, lying in bed, Dominic whispered, "Do you think he knew that bringing us together would be part of his legacy?" "I think he hoped. He told me once that you were a good man who needed someone to believe in you. Maybe he knew that someone would end up being me." I wish I could thank him for everything. For being my friend, for giving me you, for believing I was worth saving. You can thank him by living well, by being the man he knew you could be, by building the life he wanted for both of us. I can do that. Dominic kissed my forehead. With you beside me, I can do anything. 6 months later, Dominic proposed at Dad's grave. Simple, perfect, just the two of us and a man who wasn't there but somehow was. "Thomas, I'm asking your daughter to marry me," he said, speaking to the headstone like Dad could hear. "I know you're probably concerned. I know I'm not what you imagined for her. But I promise I'll spend every day trying to be worthy of her. Trying to be the man you believed I could be." Then he turned to me, pulled out a ring, got on one knee. "Natalie Bennett, you came into my life at my absolute worst moment and somehow made me want to be better. You believed in me when no one else did. You loved me despite every logical reason not to. Will you marry me?" "Yes." The answer came, without hesitation. Yes, absolutely yes. We were married 3 months later in a small ceremony. Rachel officiated. James walked me down the aisle since Dad couldn't. Marie cried through the whole thing. And I wore Mom's wedding ring alongside my engagement ring, keeping both my parents with me. In my vows, I spoke about unexpected love and second chances, about finding light in darkness and building futures on foundations of loss. In his vows, Dominic promised to honor my father's memory every day, to build the life Thomas had sacrificed for, to love me the way I deserved. We danced to a song Dad used to play when I was little. I cried. Dominic held me close and whispered that Thomas was there, watching, proud of us both. 2 years after that, we stood in the Thomas Bennett Center on opening day. The place was packed with families, kids running everywhere, programs starting, hope taking root. He'd love this, I said, watching a group of kids participate in an art class. He'd say we were making too much fuss, Dominic countered. But yeah, secretly he'd love it. My hand went to my stomach, where a tiny life was just beginning. We hadn't told anyone yet. Wanted to keep it between us a little longer. I wish our baby could meet him, I said softly. They will. Through stories, through this place, through everything we build in his memory. Thomas Bennett will live on through all of it. That evening, we visited the grave one more time. Told Dad about the center's opening, about the baby, about the life we'd built from the ashes of that terrible night. Thank you, I whispered, for believing in him, for bringing us together, for giving your life so we could have ours. The wind rustled through the trees. Somewhere, I swear I heard my father's laugh. We walked back to the car hand in hand. Behind us, the sun set over a city where a good man had died protecting someone he believed in. Ahead of us, a future built on love, redemption, and the unshakable belief that even from tragedy, beautiful things can grow. So here's where I leave you, sitting somewhere comfortable, I hope, having walked this journey with me. From the worst night of my life to a future I never could have imagined. My father died a hero. Dominic became the man Dad always knew he could be. And I learned that love doesn't always come in the packages we expect. If this story touched you, if you've ever experienced loss or found unexpected love or believed in someone against all odds, leave me a comment. Tell me your story. Share this with someone who needs to hear that beautiful things can grow from broken ground. Subscribe if you want more stories about real love, second chances, and the complicated beauty of being human. And remember, the people we lose never really leave us. They live on in the choices we make, the love we give, and the futures we build in their honor. My name is Natalie Volkov now, and this was the story of how a mafia boss and a driver's daughter found love in the aftermath of tragedy. Thank you for listening. Thank you for believing. Thank you for being here. Now go live well, love fully, and never underestimate the power of believing in someone, even when the whole world says you shouldn't. That belief can change everything.